It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe. Thank you so much for joining us. Our top story today, your commute on Orchard Lake Road is about to hit a roadblock. Today marks the beginning of a large project that will affect the major roadway throughout West Bloomfield Township all throughout this summer. Civic Center TV's Kevin McIntosh is live out on Orchard Lake Road with more information. Kevin.
Thank you, Tyler. So, yes, I am out here live outside in West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake Road. If you look behind me, you can already see the traffic cones. You can also see the traffic signal right here. Road work, Willow Way Lane to Long Lake Road. They are expecting to resurface that stretch of Orchard Lake Road that you can see behind me that pretty much passes the high school, a few other businesses and residents as well. They're going to take this 2-lane street down to just 1 lane. You can see people adjusting right now. This is in both directions, both north and south, with that being said. Now, you can see traffic is flowing pretty fairly right now. We're in the middle of the day, the middle of the work day, so we're not expecting too much traffic. With that being said, the entire project itself, $3.1 million project, is going to include new asphalt on the roads. They're going to resurface with new asphalt. With that being said, they're also going to do a little bit of work to the sidewalks. They're going to make them a little bit more ADA compliant. That means make them a little bit more wider, making sure the slopes are level, things of that nature, making sure anyone with disabilities can access these sidewalks as well. Curb and gutter repairs. They're also going to do some work on these traffic signals. They're going to do traffic signal work. Now, this overall resurfacing work, sidewalk work, they're expecting this until the end of the summer pretty much. But that traffic signal work, they're expecting that until January 2026. So that's something to keep in mind. So just to reiterate, 1 lane, both directions, Orchard Lake Road between Willow Way Lane all the way to Long Lake Road. They're also doing ADA compliant sidewalk work. There is still access to the businesses and side streets, but please be aware because there will be delays. It will be done by mid-August is when this road resurfacing will be done. You want more information, visit rcocweb.org. And we must have this work be done during the summer before the actual school year starts back up in the fall, where traffic will be a lot more hectic, Tyler.
Yeah, definitely going to affect those major times of the day where we do sort of see a little bit of a bottleneck in that section of Orchard Lake Road. You think about the morning drive commute, the afternoon drive commute, and as you said, with school being in session now through the next several weeks, that's also going to be a point of the day around 2:30 when West Bloomfield High School gets out, that being right dead center in the middle of this project. So look for some detours, take some extra time, bring your patience with you on your commute down Orchard Lake Road, as it's going to be one lane in each direction for the foreseeable future. Kevin, anything else for us?
No, as we continue to get word from the Road Commission of Oakland County, we'll keep you updated if anything in the timeline changes. But like I said, right now you can see in the middle of the day, traffic is flowing, no brake lights, no stop and go. So make your way through here while you can. But like we said, when it gets around that time for school to let out, while these construction cones are here, you can expect major delays.
Yeah, a big part of that, too. We'll have construction crews out there very soon. So for now, just the cones knocking each way down to 1 lane in either direction. But once we start to get crews out there and they're navigating between the lanes to obviously do the repaving itself, that's going to cause a little bit more of those delays and those slowdowns as well. Appreciate Kevin McIntosh live with us out on Orchard Lake Road with that update. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Tyler.
All right, we'll get you back to the studio very soon and out of the traffic zone. For those that are tuning in again, repaving project ongoing on Orchard Lake Road. That's going to be impacting Willow Way up to Long Lake all the way through August of this year. Previously on the program, we let you know a couple weeks ago that this was oncoming. While we were in the process of that, we did provide some incorrect information listed from the West Bloomfield Township website and their social media that marked the end of this project being in August of 2026. The the correction on that, August of 2025. So if you looked at that story, if you heard that story from us and thought that seems like a little bit of a long timeline for repaving one lane, repaving each direction in that section of the road. That's because it is going to be just through the end of the summer. As Kevin had mentioned, some of the projects involving the lights in that section of Orchard Lake Road, that will continue until the current estimation of January. Once again, rcocweb.org, or stay tuned right here on the Splash Live for even more information. All eyes were on the OAA and West Bloomfield football alums on NFL Draft Weekend, with 5 West Bloomfield Lakers landing on professional rosters. That includes Maxwell Hairston, going from the University of Kentucky, going 30th overall, first-round pick to the Buffalo Bills, and as well as a few others signing as undrafted free agents after the draft concluded over the weekend. Donovan Edwards heading to the New York Jets, Makari Page to the Giants, Lance Dixon to the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, and wide receiver Tyrone Broden from the University of Arkansas going to the Seattle Seahawks. Joining me now to talk about the mass of Laker legends heading into the NFL is former longtime Laker assistant football coach Daryl Bingham. Coach, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you on to talk about this. An exciting time to be a Laker, especially, I would imagine so, for those that were coaching these 5 players during their legendary run at West Bloomfield. You told us earlier on, a few weeks ago as we were leading up to the draft, how proud you were to see your players in a position to go pro. Now that you're seeing 5 of those Lakers landing on professional rosters, what's this moment like for you and for your colleagues?
It's great. I had a chance over the weekend to attend Max's NFL draft party on Saturday. And while we were there, I saw his position coach, Coach Cam. I saw his conditioning coach, Coach Burt, and just seeing his teammates and everything. It was great. It is a feeling that I can only imagine. If I feel this way, how his parents feel. And you're so proud. And the thing about it is, he's still the same kid. He's still the same kid that we had in high school, full of smiles, full of joy, just happy to be around people who love him and happy for the opportunity. And he's very grateful.
And it was such a cool moment, too. And it got a lot of attention on social media. He was selected 30th overall, 29 players going in the first round before him. And after every single one of those players, there was a compilation video of him saluting each of them, dapping them up, shaking their hands, giving them a high five, celebrating them going before him in the draft. Is that just quintessentially who Max is and has been since his days at WB?
That's Max Harrison.
Yeah.
That's Max Harrison, 100%. Very authentic, very genuine. He loves to celebrate everyone's victories in life. When you have challenges in life, he's there to support you. Like I said, he's a great football player, but more importantly, he's a better human being. So I'm so proud of the young man and his achievements, and all of them. They have all done a great job. I do have high expectations for all of them, and more importantly, I look to having a very fun-filled fall of visiting different games around the country and watching them play.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to see them playing both in training camp and eventually in the regular season as well, because even the guys that weren't drafted, they landed as undrafted free agents for these Lakers on various teams, a lot of them in the NFC East, landing with teams out east like the Jets and the Eagles. But they're guys that have always been sort of the workhorses, the silent assassins, so to speak, behind the scenes. And really paramount among all of those that really highlights that is Makari Page, a guy that's always sort of been one of the most talented guys in the room, but when you walk into the room, he's not going to be the one showing it to you. He's going to show it to you out on the field. What do you think that brings to an NFL roster that makes him a player that could go from undrafted free agent to impact player on day one?
Makari is a freak of nature when you talk about his athleticism. Yeah. You're talking about a 6'3", safety, once again, very similar to Max, basketball player who really just adapted to just being purely a football player, but more importantly knew how to transition and move his skills from playing other sports over onto the football field. He is a very quiet and soft-spoken person, very, very, very mannerable young man. but very serious on the field. And one of the things I look forward to is, when you have somebody that physical size and the athleticism, what he can bring to a team is remarkable. And Tyler, if you can remember the first state championship that we wound up playing for in that semifinal game, it was because of Makari and his athleticism that actually got us past Cass Tech in that semifinal game. So he brings a whole lot to the table that I think teams could benefit from.
Yeah, and we saw the impact of those players all throughout draft week, and not just from West Bloomfield, but from schools like Cass Tech and others in Detroit, and all throughout the OAA. Clarkston's Garrett Dellinger becoming the first Clarkston Wolf alum to ever be drafted into the NFL also over the weekend. And that kind of competition certainly helped to elevate these Lakers to the position that they're in now, going pro, and vice versa. For guys that also maybe don't get as much of the praise through Laker lore and even as they're moving on to the NFL, I think of someone like Tyrone Broden, who had a really tough act to follow when he became the primary receiver for the Lakers, both preceding and succeeding him. A.J. Abbott and Taj Mustafa leading the way before him, and then after what arguably the greatest Laker receiver in history in Trey Mosley. But what gets lost in translation there with him is his own talent and ability and his journey along the way too, moving from a couple of different schools in college, learning different systems, having that challenge of adapting. How is that going to help him as he goes into this new challenge trying to make an NFL roster?
Well, you got to remember one unique thing about Rudy. When Rudy left us and he went to college, when he first stopped at Bowling Green, the kid kept growing. Yeah. By the time he got to Arkansas, he's 6'7". So when you talk about having a target that tall streaking down the field, and when you take a look at what his combine time that he ran at his pro day at his school, the 4.22, you've got a kid that he's going to tell all the D-backs, keep up, catch me if you can, and it's a beautiful target to have someone that height that you can throw to. Once again, another kid, basketball kid who we converted purely to being a football kid, it wasn't out of the desire that he only plays football. It's just one of the things he recognized. His opportunities in life were going to be far greater for him on the football field than being on the basketball court, and he committed himself. He's developed himself. He is once again another soft-spoken person, and it's the irony of it all. Most receivers and defensive backs are very cocky. Our young people are very meek, mild manner, and they show up on the field. They do all their talking on the football field. So that's one of the things that I'm very proud of them, is that they won't say much, but their film says everything.
And it's a big moment when you have a Laker great celebrating a big play that they've made on the field. It's a consequential moment. They save those emotions coming out for those sorts of times, and that's why they're being able to really put in that work ethic and get themselves to the next level. Coach Daryl Bingham is with us, a longtime assistant coach with the West Bloomfield Lakers football program, as 5 Lakers now on professional rosters following the 2025 NFL draft weekend. We talked a little bit about Maxwell Hairston, a little bit about Makari Page and Tyrone Broden. A guy that's got a really interesting journey himself is Lance Dixon, a legendary linebacker at West Bloomfield High School, the founding father, I believe, of the Laker jet sweep on the offensive side during the championship era and the early building of this now powerhouse program in southeastern Michigan. He's had sort of a bounce-around journey as well, starting off at Penn State, ending up at West Virginia, ending up at Toledo, and now working his way onto the Philadelphia Eagles roster. But with that winning pedigree and that workhorse mentality, what does he bring to a team that's now coming off a Super Bowl championship?
He's a hybrid. Even though he's played linebacker his whole high school and college career, you could easily move Lance to the safety position, and what you gain is a very hard-hitting person with speed. And typically, you don't have linebackers who have the type of speed that Lance has. With him shifting to the outside linebacker position, he's strong enough that when he played at the collegiate level, he can come down. If he had to set the edge, he can. Pass coverage, he can do it. But like I said, when you take a look at, the versatility that he brings This is a kid that, yeah, you can have him at the outside linebacker position, but you also can have him back at safety. And that's something that is not common. Usually you'll see the linebackers, especially the outside linebackers, they're more hybrids from the standpoint of putting their hand on the dirt on the edge like a Matt Judon, as well as having to drop back into pass coverage. But Lance's ability and his speed gives him the ability to sit back and say, hey, I can play the linebacker position. I'm tough enough to go. If I got to sit back and come down and put my hand in there, I can handle that. But if I need to go back and play safety, nickel, not a problem at all.
Daryl Bingham is with us, a longtime Lakers assistant coach on the football field. 5 Lakers now on professional rosters in the National Football League. Maxwell Hairston with the Buffalo Bills, Donovan Edwards with the New York Jets, Makari Page, New York Giants, Tyrone Broden with the Seattle Seahawks, and Lance Dixon landing with the defending champion, Philadelphia Eagles. 4 of those players as undrafted free agents. Max Hairston, 30th overall, first ever first-round pick from West Bloomfield High School out of the University of Kentucky, which had a really good weekend at the NFL draft, and a lot of those players ending up with the Buffalo Bills. Lastly, I want to talk to you about Donovan Edwards, because this is arguably the player that anybody's going to think of as West Bloomfield football. You look back at his days from his junior varsity days and coming up onto the varsity roster early on in his career, people knew this was going to be a star at West Bloomfield, a highly coveted recruit. He goes to the University of Michigan, 5-star recruit, has a great career there, wins a championship, kind of struggles those last couple of years in comparison to those first years, and goes from a guy that people thought may have been a mid-round draft pick, a high-level draft pick, to an undrafted free agent. For the first time really in his career, it seems like Donovan's in a position to play from behind and have to earn his keep even more than he already does naturally. What do you think about Donovan as a football player, as an athlete, as someone with that sort of Laker mentality of a work ethic that sets him up to be able to tackle that challenge and really show off what he had said he wanted to be going into college, one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game?
Let's start. Let's set football and all his athleticism aside, and let's talk about him as a person.
Yeah,
he's a grounded young man who's dealt with a lot of challenges early in life, losing a parent at a very early age, and having to be raised only by his dad and his brother. And he's overcome so much. He's what I call the community kid. He's the kid that has really just adapted to embracing being raised by the community, and more importantly, understands his responsibility to the community at large. Now, we transitioned that into him being an athlete and what he's going to bring coming into sports. Yeah, he had a tough time last year. That was quite evident. He had the injuries that he had to deal with. And then just making that transition that, I think Michigan was dealing with from coming off the national championship and the number of athletes that they lost going into the pros that following year. What I expect from Donovan, if you take a look at the athletes that were drafted at the running back position this year, a lot of them physically aren't the size of Donovan. They're actually a lot smaller in stature. Donovan is a kid also who's a hybrid. You could take Donovan, people forget, this kid has excellent hands. Excellent hands. So if you want to shift him to the slot position, not a problem. He's got great speed, and more importantly, when he's on the field, you've got a kid who has He not only has the knowledge of how to run routes, he not only has the knowledge of how to tote the rock up and down the field, but more importantly, when he played for us as a freshman, Donovan's played quarterback. So you got a kid who academically, breaks down and understands how to break down a defense. So you have a total package here, and as a result, I'm not worried about the kid. He's gonna do well. He's a competitor. He's going to sit back and he's going to compete at the highest level. The biggest thing is, pray to God we keep him healthy.
And you mentioned the character of him, too. That's exactly the kind of guy that people want to have in an NFL locker room, even as a rookie. And he's going to develop into a stellar leader at the NFL level. I personally think what sums up his character to me is his signing day at West Bloomfield High School, one of the coldest days we've had in our community in years. Yes. Outdoors, had to be on the football field, A, because of COVID, but B, because of so much national press and local press wanting to be there for that big moment for for arguably the greatest recruit we've seen come out of southeastern Michigan in the past decade plus. And with all this national media, all this scheduled time, I tried to arrange an interview with him on our live coverage that day. He couldn't do it. He had a set schedule, but he made his way back out onto the field after he was done for the day. He could have gone home, but he came up to our team at Civic Center TV, made sure he gave his local media their due chance with him as well. And that really just speaks to, as you said, him as a community guy. He's going to come into that locker room on day one and make an impact on his teammates, and that speaks out even more beyond his athleticism. That makes him a perfect fit either in the backfield for the Jets or with a pretty mobile quarterback team in Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor, whatever gets cooked up by Aaron Glenn and the team out there in New York. He's gonna have a great chance to make a big impact. And it's good to see him, too, back in a much better set of colors in the green and white after a few years in maize and blue. Definitely warms my Spartan and Laker heart here as well. Coach, we've seen the Lakers renaissance over the past 15, 20 years under Ron Bellamy, Tyrese Grice, now Zach Hilbers, and all the assistants that went into that. You mentioned earlier on Coach Cam, Coach Dickerson having a very proud weekend with Maxwell Hairston, Makari Page, others he's coached like Will Johnson, all ending up on NFL rosters. But when you bring it back to the program, what about this West Bloomfield program do you think sets these kids up to make the most of the opportunities that are in front of them and now be able to catapult a handful of Lakers in 1 year onto NFL rosters?
Take a look at the young people that all got drafted and from that time frame. They are the individuals who built the legacy of West Bloomfield football. So they understood the hard work that it was going to take to go from being the doormat in the OAA to actually being the dominant player in the OAA with the target on their back every year. So they have that, they carry that mentality and that swag. It's not about walking through the door. It's about kicking the door open and owning your time and your space. So as a result of that, their transition going into professional football to me is nothing more than a natural matriculation of the work that they put in their whole time period, coming out of youth sports, coming to us at the high school level, going to the various colleges that they played at, and now their talent being recognized as being worthy enough to play at the pro level.
And as the younger players that are now in the West Bloomfield Laker program, those varsity players looking for that opportunity at the collegiate level, dreaming of getting into the NFL, being drafted one day themselves, as they look at these 5 players collectively, what do you think is the strongest example that they've set that these players that are currently in the program should take to heart themselves and implement as they train and as they compete over the next up to 4 years at West Bloomfield?
One of the things that I love about our players when they come back is they reiterate a lot of the things that we tell the kids, and it goes without us even having to coach them and saying this. They understand this purely. And they tell the kids, you inherited a legacy. It is your job to protect it. You have people who have reverence for you because of the work that came before you. But it is your job to go out there and to maintain the integrity of that reverence and that legacy that was set up before you. So as a result, it puts a certain responsibility on the backs of the players to make sure that they understand, don't let the former players down by letting yourselves down, by not achieving what you're capable of achieving. Be perfect in your effort, or in other words, do your best at all times. And as a result of that, they will also have the opportunities to basically inherit some of the future growth and future opportunities that our former players have actually laid down for them now at the professional level.
Yeah, Coach B, I think the Lakers are going to need to start making some plans, Eric Pierce and the team, for a new flagpole out at the Swamp, because Matthew Judon's 99. I don't think that's going to be the lone Laker number retired there for very long. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you much. Go Lakers.
Yeah, appreciate you as well. Go Lakers. And congratulations to you and all the other coaches, past and present, who have played a part in these 5 Lakers making it into the NFL, meaning we got 8 total Lakers in the league before this past weekend's NFL draft. It was Tristan Jackson with the Minnesota Vikings, Matthew Judon with the Atlanta Falcons, and Javon Foster drafted the highest in Laker history just last year in the 4th round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars. Now 5 more Lakers on the board on NFL rosters, 4 competing for those roster spots as undrafted free agents. And the highest drafted Laker of all time, Maxwell Hairston, landing with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. You can celebrate them and give them your congratulations on Facebook. Follow the West Bloomfield School District at West Bloomfield Schools. Your domestic travel and business ventures may soon be impacted by your state ID card. New federal regulations are requiring what's called Real ID compliance by May 7th, leaving Greater West Bloomfield residents facing a tight deadline to comply and keep their spring and summer travel plans in check. Luckily, Oakland County is here to help residents bridge the gap in the final days before the deadline hits. Joining me with more information is Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Lisa Brown. Madam Clerk, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on because this is really a statewide issue. Secretary of State leading the charge on this from then the Department of Homeland Security and other federal agencies that are overseeing Real ID compliance at the national level. But in terms of what the local governments are doing, your office in particular, how is Oakland County supporting residents in these final days leading up to the Real ID deadline?
Well, on May 1st, we are going to have the Secretary of State's office, basically an office visit here at the courthouse. So it'll be one-stop shop for anyone who still needs to apply for a Real ID. If you were born in Oakland County and you need to get your birth certificate, a certified copy, marriage records, court records, anytime your name has changed, you need documentation for each one of those name changes. So being able to come to my office, get those documents here, and then walking down the hall to where we'll be hosting the Secretary of State's staff to assist people in getting not just their Real IDs, but anything that you would normally do at a branch office, you'll be able to do here as well.
And as you mentioned, this is really being done through the Secretary of State's office. The Real ID compliance is going to be required for traveling domestically at our local airports.
Yeah, this is federal.
Right.
This is across the country. Everybody. This isn't just a Michigan thing. This is everybody will have to comply with this in order to board a plane, unless you have a passport, or to enter a federal government building.
And with these deadlines upcoming at the time that you and I are talking about this live, it's just over a week away from that Real ID compliance deadline. And so partnering with the Secretary of State's office at this time, how is that going to ultimately help residents get what they need if maybe they're traveling in the next couple of weeks as that deadline approaches?
Yeah, like I said, accessibility is always one of my top priorities, and the Deputy Secretary of State, Agogo Adebe, reached out to me and said, do you want to collaborate? And I mean, it didn't take me 2 seconds to say, yes, that sounds great. For people to be able to come to one stop and be able to take care of all that business all at the same time. I think it's just, it's a great partnership.
But it's not just a one-stop shop where you show up and you sign a couple of documents and you're ultimately going to be in line for that Real ID to come in the mail or be delivered to you by some other means. You do have to have some documentation with you, I believe, in order to get through that process, even at that one-stop shop, as you called it, with Oakland County on May 1st. What should people be bringing with them to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners chamber room as they prepare for this event?
Yep. So for your Real ID, you should be bringing your current state ID, whether it's a driver's license or other state ID. You should be bringing a certified copy of your birth certificate. Again, if you were born in Oakland County, you can get it here that same day. And you'll need any documentation, again, if you changed your name and every time that you change your name. So that may be marriage license. Again, if you were married here or your marriage license is here, you can get it the same day as well. And any court records as well. So, and to get your birth certificate or to get a birth certificate, your name has to be on it. So it's either your birth certificate or your child, unless you have a court order saying otherwise. Those are the only people who can get a copy of a birth certificate, and you'll need to show an ID for that as well.
How important is accessibility to these services from your office's perspective? And partnering with other organizations, even government agencies like the Michigan Secretary of State, what does that really say about the overall goals of your office to make sure people have access to the information they need to be able to get through these processes that affect us here in Oakland County and those from Oakland County to other areas of our state and nation?
Yeah, it's not easy to always conduct the business that you need to, either with my office or with the Secretary of State's office. I mean, a lot of our services are available online, but instead of having to run all over the county, right, come here and then go back to a branch office, just to be able to do it all here on one. If you want to do it on your lunch break, the Secretary of State staff will be here from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We open at 8:30. And just instead of driving all over the county, to be able to do it, like I said, one stop, the convenience of it and making sure that you have everything that you need to be able to come here and get those documents that you may need, a certified copy of a birth or marriage license or court records, and then be able to take that, like I said, down the hall and be able to apply for your real ID before the May 7th deadline, just trying to make things easier for people. It's great that Michigan is above average as far as our compliance thus far, but we want to make sure that everybody's in compliant when that deadline comes.
Again, the Real ID compliance requirement is going to be May 7th. That's the deadline to make sure you have that gold star in the top right corner of your Michigan driver's license or ID card. That can be done in partnership. Just coming up later on this week as we record this with the Oakland County Register of Deeds and Clerk's Office with Lisa Brown. May 1st in the auditorium of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners in Pontiac, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 1st. You'll be able to go through the whole process that you need to get Real ID compliant. And Clerk Brown, as you're helping people through this process, along with one of the Deputy Secretaries of State that's going to be assisting with this on the local level. What's the timeline looking like between May 1st, when this event will be happening, and 6 days later, that deadline looming ahead?
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is one day that we're, having this. That doesn't stop anybody from going to a branch office May 2nd, 3rd, 4th, right? Like, you can still apply for a Real ID, but they just won't be here, right? So don't be discouraged if May 1st your day is booked or you're out of town or whatever the case may be. You can still apply. It'll just be if you need documents from my office, coming here and then going to a branch office.
It's part of the Real ID Act of 2005, an act of Congress signed into law on May 11th of 2005. It's going to be for traveling domestically, for entering federal buildings. You'll need to have that verification, or other forms of verified ID will be required in its place, like a U.S. passport as well. Yes. So that's why the Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds office is partnering with the Michigan Secretary of State's office for this event on May 1st to help you get Real ID compliant. And what I was getting at there, Clerk, was as people come in and they fill out these documents, they submit everything they need to the Secretary of State's office. Has there been any indication from their team to yours about what the turnover time may be for people from submitting this documentation to ultimately getting that updated ID?
I don't know their timeline, but I'm assuming that they'll give you a receipt of sorts that would show that you like a temporary license, showing that you have met those qualifications and shown the proper documentation. But for people who are questioning whether they already have a Real ID, there are two different ways currently that it is signified on a driver's license. So it's either a gold circle with a star in it, or it's the shape of Michigan with a star in it. So either one, you are already Real ID compliant and you don't need to do anything else.
More information can be found on michigan.gov/realid. You can also go to dhs.com, that's the .gov, my apologies, dhs.gov, that's the Department of Homeland Security's website, where they have even more information on the Real ID deadline, why it's being put in place, and what you'll need in order to travel with a Real ID throughout the United States. Otherwise, you can show up and get your questions answered, get the documents filled out that you need, and get your Real ID with the Michigan Secretary of State's office and the Oakland County Clerk's Office May 1st, 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Auditorium in Pontiac. Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds Lisa Brown is with us on the Splash Live as they prepare to host that event later on this week. Clerk, anything else that people should know before they go on Thursday to get compliant with Real ID?
Again, making sure that you have the proper documentation, know what the fees are, if you're going to need to pay a fee. If your driver's license is already up for renewal, your birthday is coming up, there's no fee, but otherwise it's $9 for a driver's license and $10 for a state ID. And then our fees, $15 for the first copy of a certified birth certificate or marriage license, unless you're 65 or older, a copy of your, the first copy of your birth certificate costs less than that. So just knowing the fees and making sure you've got the proper ways to pay for everything and the proper documentation, or making sure that, again, like if you were born in Wayne County, we're not going to have your birth certificate. So knowing where you were born, where your records lie, and where you'll need to get them, and making sure that you have everything that you need before you come in.
If you have more questions, 248-858-0561. Again, the phone number, 248-858-0561. And you can find more information on services provided by the Oakland County Clerk's Office at oakgov.com/clerkrod. Clerk Brown, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on. Thursday, May 1st, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Auditorium in Pontiac. The Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds Office, along with the Michigan Secretary of State, will be holding a Real ID Day there to help you get your information into the Secretary of State's office and get yourself a Real ID in compliance with that May 7th deadline. In the meantime, michigan.gov/realid or dhs.gov, and scroll down just a little bit down that page and click on their link for Real ID information to find out even more that you need for getting your Real ID close to home. We'll take a break. Plenty more coming up on the Splash Live, including on the other side, looking into the theater in West Bloomfield High School. And plus, later on, we'll talk even more about more interesting stories happening right here across our community, including some of our biggest basketball fans celebrating a big time for the Detroit Pistons basketball, and a little controversy also along the way. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from West Bloomfield. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. It's that time of year again. Gather around to honor our community's volunteers at the 53rd Annual Michigan Week Awards. Watch as these local stars are honored for their leadership, dedication, and passion in their community. For more information or to register, go to michiganweek.org. Catch the live broadcast May 9th on civiccentertv.com or on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent, West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be 1 in a million.
Find local municipal meetings at our program schedule on civiccentertv.com. Find when your meetings air live or when they're replaying on our Civic Center TV live stream. Find it all at civiccentertv.com and click schedule at the top of the screen. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft. Thank you so much for being with us today. Basketball is back in everyone's minds here in the greater West Bloomfield area and across Metro Detroit. Detroit basketball is back after one of the worst seasons in professional basketball history. The Detroit Pistons had a resurgence in 2025, winning 30 more games than they did in the year before, qualifying for the playoffs, and even most recently picking up their first playoff win since all the way back in 2008. Much like the resurgence of the Tigers and even before that, especially the Detroit Lions, fans right here close to home are feeling the excitement themselves. That includes one of West Bloomfield's biggest Pistons fans, James Johnson, who joins us now on the Splash Live. James, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate the interview.
Yeah, happy to have you on. Happy to be talking about Pistons basketball. They've had a fantastic season, really having a major bounce back. That's one of the best in NBA history, going from 14 wins last season to 44 wins in a playoff appearance this year. For a basketball fan like you, what's the feeling like to finally have Pistons basketball seeming like it's back on the right track?
Yeah, it takes me back to the old days of the Bad Boys, and we have so much history with us being able to get those championships in Detroit. I had opportunity to go down and check out a couple games, and the feeling in the stadium is awesome. It's the environment is electric, and it's really been good to bring that pride back to Detroit.
And the Pistons picking up their first playoff win since 2008 when they won a conference finals game against the Boston Celtics. Now they pick up a win in Game 2 of the first round against the New York Knicks. And since then, quite a lot of controversy as the Pistons came back to Detroit. They ended up losing in Game 3 in a close game with some controversy at the end of that game with a potential backcourt violation on Jalen Brunson. And then the biggest controversy of the entire NBA playoffs happened just recently in Game 4. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. The Pistons in a one-point game, Tim Hardaway with a potential game-winning three, some contact from Josh Hart led to him missing. It wasn't called a foul. A lot of question around this, including the NBA's officiating crews that do a report of their final 2 minutes of officiating, saying they made a mistake. They should have called a foul. Tim Hardaway Jr. should have had 3 shots at the line, which theoretically could have won the Detroit Pistons that game. What was your reaction in that moment and afterwards to that final part of that game and ultimately a non-call that might end up costing the Pistons their season?
One of the things that I thought about with how much scrutiny now is on the refereeing and how many replays they have, it reminds me of football now. It slows the game down, but I understand it's a reason why it needs to be slowed down so that calls like this wouldn't go against the Pistons, because that would have been as easy as a simple review and that could have been overturned. So I don't understand why that wasn't overturned, because with all of the new technology we have and how things go, I think that it would have been easy to see that and to change that call. And that's been done many times in the past. A couple games that I watched, they actually reversed some calls due to that. So I don't know why they didn't reverse that call.
Yeah, and it has a big impact to the Pistons. If they would have won that game, would have tied the series at 2 wins apiece. The first team to win 4 games in that best-of-7 series moves on to the second round, where they may be on a collision course with the defending champion Boston Celtics. Now the Pistons, after that 94-93 loss, they're down 3-1. They go back to New York on Tuesday for Game 5, which could be the end of that series, especially with the history showing statistically over 70% of the time the team that goes up 3-1 ends up winning that series. But we want to keep it positive as we think about Pistons basketball going forward, because whether this series goes back in the Pistons' favor or not, they've made an unbelievable turnaround. And like we've seen with the Lions over the past several years, and now the Tigers with their own resurgence, we're seeing people start to rekindle that love they had in years past for Pistons basketball. How are you seeing that here close to home in West Bloomfield and, of course, throughout the Metro Detroit area in recent weeks and months?
So what I see is, even with the resurgence of the Lions, it reminds me of the same formula where you get good leadership in, you get players that buy into the coaches, you get a good chemistry of players that are just ready to get out there and work and not necessarily always be the one that gets the glory for whatever is going on. Everybody does the work. And that chemistry, to me, is what has led to this resurgence. And it all starts with leadership. So it's great to see.
And how do you think that this run for the Pistons, especially seeing them have those 2 home games against the Knicks in Game 3 and Game 4, may help Detroit basketball get back on the map and really Detroit gain that respect it had for so many years as one of the best basketball cities in the country?
Yeah, and I think that what we've done this far is not kind of a one-time thing. I believe that people have bought back into it, along with, like I said, the players, the fans. If you go down to these games, the stadiums are filling up. So people they're invested, and I think that's just a good thing for the city. It's a good thing for everyone involved because it just brings not just revenue, but you bring that good feeling back to the city, and that's what's really important right now.
James Johnson is with us, arguably the biggest Pistons fan in the greater West Bloomfield area. The Pistons with a resurgent season. The number 6 seed in the Eastern Conference are currently down 3-1 against the New York Knicks as we have this conversation. But being back in the playoff hunt, having some hope for the future. Great young roster. Cade Cunningham, despite the loss in Game 4, a triple-double, an impact player. If the Pistons pulled out that win, even without it, really, you could say that's a legacy game for the young Piston guard. So as this team has made this push forward, they got a young roster. There's some excitement there. There's a lot of rumors surrounding them, too. Could they be a player this offseason and go out and pick up a star through a trade? Do you think that this is a time for the Pistons to look to make a big splash and maybe next year, the year or a couple of years out, possibly be contending for a championship on a faster track?
Yeah, I think if upper management and everyone stays with what they've been doing so far, I'm sure that you'll have some players, some big name players that'll want to come to Detroit. I mean, you look at the Lions and you had players that are on that team that didn't necessarily want to be in Detroit, and now they want to be in Detroit. So I think this has led to not only us seeing the growth and the development of our team, but I believe that it would be a good opportunity to try to grab somebody that's a big name that fits and that goes along with the chemistry of just doing the work. I love that slogan. If we can find a player that will fit into the chemistry of what we have and that wants to be here and that wants to develop, I think this would be the best time because we've gotten to a place where we haven't been in a while, and I think the energy is high, and I think that we could get a good player.
They play hard, they represent the city well, and those building blocks are definitely there. James Johnson is with us, West Bloomfield resident, and a big Detroit Pistons fan as the Pistons continue their resurgence and their playoff push in 2025. James, if people in West Bloomfield and the greater West Bloomfield area haven't gotten back on the bandwagon yet with the Pistons, why should they be tuning in now and rooting for their hometown basketball team?
Well, like I said, the team feeds off of that energy. And the city just feeds off of that energy. And I look at the Lions, I always use that as an example. It may take a season or two, I think, but if the fans buy in and they go down to these games and they experience it, because once you experience a game in person and you feel that energy, you'll want to be a part of it. So I believe that everybody should begin to rally behind this team, and that'll give us an opportunity to even make a bigger impact as we begin to win more games. And like you said, maybe we get a bigger star to come to Detroit, and we'll be on our way to possibly another championship.
Plenty more to be celebrating in the future for Pistons fans and basketball fans alike here in greater West Bloomfield and beyond. James, thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, glad to have you on. Go Pistons. And thank you so much for your time today. James Johnson, one of the biggest Pistons fans in our local area and possibly the biggest Pistons fan right here in West Bloomfield Township. We want to know your thoughts as well about the resurgence of Detroit basketball in 2025 and how you're celebrating, where you've been watching the games right here in West Bloomfield. Let us know on our social media, Facebook at Civic Center TV 15. You can find us on X and Instagram as well at Civic Center TV. Close to home, West Bloomfield Theater students are set to hit the stage later this week with their final show of the school year, Matilda, opening on May 1st. Civic Center TV reporter Jake Schaff joined the student leadership team behind the big show to learn about how the kids are taking the lead both on the stage and behind the scenes.
Every year, the West Bloomfield High School Theater Department puts on a wide variety of shows for everyone in the community. And very soon, this talented team will be taking the stage once again for their spring musical of the Roald Dahl classic, Matilda. But it's not just the actors who gain a wealth of knowledge from this experience, as students also take on the role of directing the musical and helping to make their creative vision come alive.
It has been really amazing. I am very grateful for this opportunity. I had really wanted to get into directing and just step into that side of the world from just differentiating myself from an actor. And I think that working with my partner has really just made it top tier, and I just really enjoyed it.
What made you develop an interest in directing?
I just had a ton of ideas, and from an acting standpoint, you're not really supposed to just, throw your ideas out there. And so being able to do that and throw my artistic vision into something and watch it come to life on stage was something I was really interested in. It's really beautiful each time, especially with starting from the beginning. You get to see the actors really grow into their characters, and not only grow as their character, but into who they are as a person.
What I have noticed is that, I've been made more aware of myself, and as an actor, I think I've gained more respect, and in a sense, because when you're just an actor, when a director's tripping or just has some type of I see why now. I see how to be more kind and have a better understanding. So I think that's one thing I've learned.
What would be some of the challenges that you think people might not be aware of when tackling something like this?
When you come from being a friend to your peers, to someone that's higher over them, I feel like respect is something that could be a challenge. Having people see you as something different, you have to really assert yourself in a way for them to really understand who you are, for them to take you serious. I feel like that's something that's a challenge.
I feel like people aren't really aware of how much work we really do put in. We are here all the time, every day, and it's not a bad thing at all. That's why our productions are so good. You talk to your friends and you're like, yeah, I'm here till 6:30. Yeah, I'm here till 9 o'clock. And they're like, wow, I can never do that. But it doesn't feel like work. Never does. It's just always real fun.
What's it been like to work closely with some of the main directors and the teachers in this way, and to learn from them and to work alongside them?
It has gained me more respect for them, and a better understanding. When working with the main directors, I just see a different side of them that I didn't see as an actor. I get to understand their point of view, and I feel like I've gained a better bond with them. And then working so closely with somebody that's my peer has really made us closer, and that will probably be a long-lasting friendship.
Theater is something that means the world to me, and it's literally the only thing that I do. And I put my soul, my heart into everything. And even in schoolwork, it's something you can always take with you, to put your 100% into everything.
As with so many things in life, it's the people behind the scenes that help make the vision come alive. Best of luck to both of our directors and everyone on the Matilda team. And here's hoping that this year's high school theater season ends on a high note. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
For more information on Matilda and where you can get tickets, go on the West Bloomfield School District's Facebook page at West Bloomfield Schools. Matilda premieres on May 1st at West Bloomfield High School, with shows on May 2nd and May 3rd as well. Again, West Bloomfield Schools on Facebook to learn more information, and WBSD.org for more info on programs all throughout the West Bloomfield School District. Next week, Greater West Bloomfield will gather to honor its many dedicated volunteers. But before the big show, a lot of planning and volunteerism goes on behind the scenes to make this a grand celebration of our community's finest. Michigan Week Committee Chairperson Kathy Russ recently gave Kevin McIntosh more insight from behind the scenes right here on the Splash Live.
Michigan Week Committee Chairperson Kathy Russ, thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's very exciting to be on the show.
I bet it is exciting to be in the chairperson position for this event as well. And I want to ask you about that. If I'm not mistaken, first time chairing a major township event like this, what has the experience been like for you so far?
So it is my first time being the chair of Michigan Week and this major township event, as you said. But lucky for me, I'm not a stranger to chairing events. I was the conference chair for the Michigan Library Association conference a few years back, and that was for about 3,000 people. And I've also chaired the Michigan Library Association's awards committee for several years. So happily, I have event planning experience, but for to be part of the Michigan Week committee, it's been really great because I've gotten to work with such wonderful, amazing people who, I can't even tell you, like the spirit of the volunteers who work on this event is so inspiring because everybody really cares. I've been on the committee for 4 years, but I've never chaired. So to be able to lead the committee has been great. It's been very rewarding.
I bet. Oh, wow. So I went to the event last year. Such a great experience, a lot of great energy in there. And it's great to just recognize people who take their time and resources, like we said earlier, just to help out the community. So how have you and your team been working to make this year's event different from the previous celebrations?
That's a good question. It's funny because I think it's the celebration itself doesn't change in that, we have the breakfast, we confer the awards. Everybody is very excited and happy to be there. But I think what makes it each year is unique because of the people. The award recipients change every year. And I think that's a tribute to this community that it isn't the same people getting these awards over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. It's different people every year, which means there's such an array of people in this community volunteering and doing wonderful things. So I think the people make it unique. Mm-hmm. And I also think that the theme this year, which is Say Yes to Volunteering in Michigan, one of the things I thought of when I, was able to be chair was that it's called Michigan Week. So we should celebrate Michigan too. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of did the theme as the takeoff on the old Say Yes to Michigan theme. And I wanted to share in that vein, Emily Tobin on the library staff did the centerpiece, which the blue marbles stones are the lakes. And then we have cherry blossoms or apple blossoms. And then she's going to put a mitten in each one too. So it's all going to be Michigan based. The breakfast starts at 7. Okay. And I think we are celebrating an important big anniversary for Michigan Digital as well at the breakfast. And then we'll have some speeches and confer the awards, and but not too many. We have some speeches, and I don't want people to think it's like all speeches because sometimes that's not everybody's cup of tea. But the speeches are always heartwarming, always inspiring. So we pass out the awards. We eat a lovely breakfast. And I should also mention that there are vegetarian, gluten-free, kosher options available. So I don't want anybody to feel like they wouldn't be able to attend because they wouldn't be able to eat the food. Right. And then we have everybody, we've made a commitment to have everybody on their way by 9 o'clock because we do have a lot of people who work for the schools or people who are going to their jobs, and we don't want to hold them up. We want to make the best use of everybody's time, but we still want to have a wonderful celebration. And it's on a Friday, so it's a nice way to start your Friday. You coast into work and have just this great spirit takes you through the rest of the day, and then on you go into the weekend.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. Going last year, it's early. You get a good breakfast, good vibes from everybody. Then you just start the rest of your day going into the weekend. It is a great way to do that. And once again, joining me right here live on The Splash, Michigan Week Committee Chairperson Kathy Russ, talking about the festivities leading up to Michigan Week, Friday, May 9th as well, and just putting the event together all together. There are many different award winners that's being recognized during this event, right? So have they already been informed of their wins? How does that work?
Sure. So what we do is the people who nominate their candidates for the awards, we have them let their nominees know that they're receiving awards because that's exciting. And that way the person who's receiving the award knows who nominated them. Mm-hmm. And it's like a mini celebration on their part. We follow up with a notification to the person to let them know officially that they're receiving an award. Right. But we like to let them, excuse me, the nominators have that fun. So we have an awards committee that goes through all of the nominations, and then they make their selections. We let the nominators inform the award recipients, and then there's a lot of behind the scenes work from the committee. We order the awards, the medallions, the signs. You can see a sign behind me that goes to everybody who's receiving an award. So we have all that in process right now, and then we have our big day.
Yes, yes. Oh, so since we're telling some of the people, the nominees in advance, what has been some of their reactions to it?
So I haven't because the nominators get to tell them. I don't know what everybody has responded, but I know that I have had some feedback, or some people have gotten in touch with me, and everybody is so excited. And there are some people, it's so humbling and so gratifying, because there are some people who are just not believing that they're receiving an award. And it's like, well, yeah, you're receiving an award. You did a wonderful job, or you've contributed so much. So everybody, I think, is excited, in some cases very grateful, surprised. And it's just to be the person who gets to be part of that is really rewarding.
To look at the bigger picture of this event and the purpose of it, I want people to understand the full scope of the honorees. So can you just talk about the kind of impact that these honorees typically have on the community to be recognized?
Sure. So I think if I could break it down, I'd say that there are a couple of major themes to these awards. One is leadership, and there are youth leadership awards, and it's so marvelous to see what these young people are doing in their schools and their communities. So we recognize leaders, emerging leaders from schools, these young people who are doing amazing things. But then we have our leadership awards for people who have contributed to the community for a longer period of time. Our Jeff Lee Lifetime Leadership Award, for example, and then, of course, the Gretschko Award for an individual and then for an organization. So leadership is a big part of this event. But I think the other thing is again, the volunteerism awards. Each community organization has the opportunity to nominate a volunteer of the year. So, for example, the Friends of the Library, who I work with very closely, are able to nominate someone from their organization. So to see all of the community organizations and the people who make them work be recognized for the work that they do is just a key part of this event as well. So it's for everybody, it's about everybody, and it shows really so much that goes on in West Bloomfield. Like, what a great place West Bloomfield is to be, because so many people contribute to the success.
Yes, I would agree with that, too. It just talks about the greatness of the everyday residents right here in our own backyard. With me right here, live on The Splash, by the way, Michigan Week Committee Chairperson Kathy Russ, talking about the Michigan Week events leading up to Friday, May 9th, and just the work that it takes to build this actual event and put it together. What do you hope attendees take away from this year's festivities?
So every year, when I leave, I always feel really happy, really inspired, really positive. And I hope that they feel that way too. I hope that they see and appreciate all the contributions that their neighbors are making. I hope potentially that people are inspired to volunteer and to get involved in a cause that's dear to their heart. I'm sure whatever cause is dear to their heart, there's an organization that will help them be part of it in West Bloomfield and to make a difference. And I think the other thing is too, one of the things that I appreciate so much is the kids. You see these marvelous young people receiving these awards, and it gives me hope for the future. And I think we need to support our young people and encourage them in the work that they do to keep them going, because I think it's hard sometimes to be a young person in today's world.
Yeah. Set the example as the older generation, as leaders, role models. Just show them and bring them to these type of things, and just show them that we're doing and what it takes to actually have a great and safe community that we have here in Greater West Bloomfield. I love to hear it. So, lastly, before I let you go, any additional goals, visions that you have for the future of Michigan Week under your leadership?
Well, my leadership, I was chair for this year. We'll see what the committee wants to do next year.
Okay.
I think it's a tremendous event, and it's, I think, unique in Michigan because I think West Bloomfield is the last community that celebrates this sort of thing, at least in the way that we do it. So, to keep that going and to continue to celebrate. Kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if there are any tweaks that we can do to make it better, I certainly want to do that. And everybody come out, have a wonderful time, and celebrate this tremendous community.
All right. And it also will be broadcast live right here at Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Thank you so much again for your time. Once again, Michigan Week Committee Chairperson, Kathy Russ. We appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Take care. See you there.
Full Michigan Week coverage will be right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Make sure to follow us on social media for even more and to watch the full event live on May 9th. That's our show. I want to remind you that Civic Center TV's television that's close to home is always online on civiccentertv.com and across our social media. Big thank you to our entire crew and to you for joining in. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft. Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.